Hello and welcome to another episode of Virtual Legality. I'm your host, Richard Hoeg, managing member of the Hoeg Law Business Law Firm of Northville, Michigan. And today we have a short video, I think, you know better than I do at this point, about the video game Judgment, or Judge Eyes in Japan. And if you aren't familiar, Judgment is a kind of spin-off series from the Yakuza series, very popular, many entries in that series. And this spin-off is, as you might be able to tell from the logo on your screen, about a lawyer. You can see the blind justice holding up the scales there in the middle of the U and the D. But this particular game is interesting because it features the likeness of a real person. A person by the name of, I believe it's Takuya Kimura. And he's very famous, very popular in Japan, apparently. I didn't recognize him, as I suspect a lot of people that play it here in the West don't recognize him either. But he was brought onto this project specifically because he is popular and famous. But as VGC reports this morning, based on a report from Japan, Lost Judgment, which is the sequel to Judgment that's coming out this fall, may be the last in the series due to actor image rights, it's claimed. A Japanese report suggests that actor Takuya Kimura's agency is blocking potential PC versions. Japanese showbiz news site Nikkan Taishu claims that sources tell it Kimura's talent agency, Johnny & Associates, have been blocking PC versions of games in the Judgment series because they don't want Kimura to appear in PC games specifically. And they say, while it's not entirely clear why this is, the site suggests that because Johnny & Associates has strict control over the likeness rights of its talent and the use of their image online is still limited to a few, the agency may be treating PC games differently because home computers have direct access to the internet. The report claims that Sega has been trying to bring Judgment and Lost Judgment to Steam, but because the agency is blocking this from happening, it may draw a line under the series after Lost Judgment. Now, if we go and we look at this particular site, we have to translate it, of course, from the Japanese. So we're already taking it with a grain of salt because it's rumors. We're taking it further with a grain of salt because it's translated. And then probably a third grain of salt because just looking at the way this particular site is set up, it does appear to be a kind of gossip rag column about entertainers. So we have to look at this, and then we get the quotes that say things like we saw in the VGC article. It supports Judge Eyes, Judgment does, PS5, but also Xbox, but does not support the platform for PC called Steam. Steam is a platform that allows you to purchase software distributed by various game makers, etc., etc. PS5 and Xbox are also popular game consoles around the world, but if they support Steam, which is a platform for personal computers, we can expect more profits. However, it is said that Johnny's side was negative about the support on Steam, which is a platform for PC. Johnny's talent management is strict and the online development of images is still limited. Was it a problem that it was a platform for personal computers that were directly connected to the internet, not software for game consoles? So breaking this down a little bit, one, I really enjoyed Judgment. It's about a lawyer who finds himself on the wrong side of the law and then winds up kicking people with skateboards around a neighborhood in Tokyo, which is really a good reflection of the legal career path, should you choose to follow it. But I don't think that the actual issue here is just connectivity to the internet. That doesn't make a ton of sense because the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, the PlayStation 4, where Judgment originally appeared on, were all connected to the internet. What seems to be more of an issue to me is the use and the ability of people to do things to a likeness that appears in a video game on PC. Now, it's not limited to PC. We've seen this before. In fact, we saw this with respect to Ellen Page and Beyond Two Souls. If you don't know that game, that's a Quantic Dream game like Detroit, a narrative game where you walk around, and Ellen Page is one of the actresses that appears in this particular game, and she appears in a shower scene because in a Quantic Dream game, there has to be a shower scene. And you know I'm right about this, especially if you've played Heavy Rain. And yet she didn't want to do a nude scene. She didn't want to do anything in a shower. So what they wound up doing, apparently, at Quantic Dream, was taking her head and putting it on a specifically digitally made body for purposes of that scene. And she wound up looking to see whether she could sue either Quantic Dream or Sony about that. And that all came out when the Sony emails got leaked to everybody around the internet. And we don't know that it went anywhere, whether it went to a settlement or anything else, because the email string ends abruptly But you could check out this story on Business Insider if you're so interested. The point is that you can still get into issues on console, and you can still have pictures and things sent around when you've got a debug unit for a PlayStation, and that can create a legal problem for you because it's a likeness that you never contracted for, and it's very much a part of any kind of contract that you're going to have with a celebrity when you're making a video game about what you can use and how. Now, that's the developer themselves, and that creates a good avenue for a lawsuit. The problem that you have on PC is not so much that you can send pictures around. You can send pictures around from a debugged PlayStation 3. It's that you have more and more people that are able to do things with the likeness that you've otherwise granted to this developer or publisher. So if we're looking at something like Death Stranding, I've pulled up now Nexus mods, and you see here a Death Stranding picture of the main character who's based on a celebrity painted up as the Joker. And you could see a lot of these mods in the Death Stranding universe, the Nexus mods, and you could probably see them with respect to other games that have actual actor likenesses. So if you're in the business of being an actor, of being a celebrity, a model, anybody that focuses on the way they look in the world, and you want to make some money, you want to participate in a video game like Death Stranding, like Beyond Two Souls, like Judgment, and you have an agency that says, we have to be very careful about your brand. We want to make sure that you don't appear in Joker paint or, God forbid, something more lascivious that somebody could find and put on the internet. Then one of the things that they might do is they say, you can't put your game on Steam. Now, I put the thumbnail up for Steam because Steam is specifically referenced in the Japanese article, but I don't view it as a Steam or Valve problem. I view it as a PC quote-unquote problem. For every bit of flexibility that you get when you're on the PC for being able to change things, for being able to put potentially this character in another context, to put Thomas the Train Engine hunting him down in Resident Evil or whatever it might be, then that flexibility gives you a great deal of utility, but it creates problems or potential caution points for the actor and the agency. Now, what's interesting about this particular article is you get to the end and it says, actually, Mr. Kimura says he likes the games a lot and he is doing a lot of work on Judge Eyes where he plays the leading role, and he wants to continue working on it. He strongly wanted to continue the series, it seems, but he said he was quite disappointed when he heard that he might not be able to do that. That his agency is coming in and saying, well, this is a potential bad thing. We don't want it on PC. It's possible that he might be able to overrule it. It depends on what the contract actually says that he has entered into, but he likes doing these video games. They're popular. They're fun. I certainly like them, even though I didn't know this actor before he appeared in this video game series. But at the end of the day, you're trying to protect your likeness. You're trying to protect that value. And sometimes that's going to mean saying, well, you're not going to go on PC. One of the things I've said in Virtual Legality a lot is that a contract is only worth the words on the page, right? That if you're not willing to go and defend it, you've got a problem. And especially if that's going to separate out into a whole group of people that can do whatever they want, where whoever made the Joker textures, and there's no problem with these, I'm just using it as an example, and put those Joker textures in Judgment, say, as it appeared on Steam, that person probably doesn't have the resources to even bother suing. You might have some kind of cease and desist, but the pictures are out there and they're affecting your client's work. And once that spreads out to everybody, you don't even have the protection that you might have negotiated in the contract, right? You might negotiate and say, okay, we're going to allow this. We're going to tell the publisher you can't use our actor's likeness for anything else. The publisher is going to tell Steam. Everybody's going to agree to everything. And yet, once something is online, once something is available that you can actually debug and look at the code on your PC, you're going to have people that are very smart, that are able to crack these things, that are able to put mods up for things that aren't otherwise mod supported, and you can get concerned about that. And certainly I think that there's levels of concern that you have in contracts and contractual relationships that maybe aren't warranted, and maybe they're a little bit overly concerned about certain things, but at the end of the day, if you are an agency for an actor like this is the kind of thing you have to be worried about. So I know a number of you would say, hey, the contracts are going to cover that, or they're being overly cautious about their actor license. I don't necessarily disagree with those kinds of things, except to note that a contract can't protect you. It's just a piece of paper. Once you get put into a situation where bad things can happen to your client's likeness, you have to be aware of that and deciding whether or not that's something you're going to support. Unfortunately, because games are being sold through the PC so well, things like Death Stranding and Horizon Zero Dawn, and games that you haven't seen on the PC in the past, cutting that revenue source off is the kind of thing that can result in the end of the series entirely. And unfortunately, for those of us that like Judgment, it does look like Lost Judgment might be the last entry in that series. This has been Virtual Legality, a short one today. If you like the channel, we talk about the business and law of video games all the time. Please consider supporting us on Patreon, subscribing, or just telling your friends that we're here. If you caught this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. And if you listen to it as a podcast, thank you so much for listening. And I will catch you on the very next episode of Virtual Legality. Virtual Legality is a YouTube video series with audio podcast versions presented as commentary and for education and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you have legal questions about the topics discussed, please consult your own legal counsel.